Sometimes makeup feels beautiful too. I always carried my husband's words deep in my heart. He would often tell me, "You are beautiful just the way you are. Your natural beauty is more precious to me than any kind of makeup." That was why I rarely used creams or beauty products. Whenever I talked about taking care of my skin or dressing up a little, he would smile softly and say, "You are naturally beautiful, like the pure white snow of the mountains. You don't need artificial colors." And I would quietly stay silent. But a woman's heart is still a woman's heart. Sometimes she wants to feel even prettier. Sometimes she wants to see a new sparkle in her husband's eyes. Eid days were getting closer. My husband and I decided that I would spend a few days at my parents' house, and he would come later to bring me back. On the day of the trip, we went to the market together to buy a few things for the journey. The weather was soft and pleasant. The market was crowded with people. Every corner was filled with the colors and excitement of Eid. And then, a young woman passed by us. She was beautifully dressed and elegantly made up. Her face glowed. Her hair was perfectly styled. Even her perfume lingered in the air behind her. Secretly, I glanced at my husband. Without realizing it, he looked toward her too. Only for a few seconds. But I noticed that look. Something lightly moved inside my heart. With a small smile, I asked him, "She really was beautiful, wasn't she?" He became slightly nervous, then laughed softly and said, "You are no less beautiful. Your natural beauty is better than all of this." I quietly replied, "But a little care and softness are not a bad thing either." This time, he became silent. Then gently, he said, "Yes, your words do make sense." I immediately felt this was the perfect moment. Laughing softly, I told him, "All right then, I'll write a few things for you to buy me." He smiled. "Okay, write them down." So I made him a long list. Face creams, skin lotions, rose water, apple cider vinegar, and many other beauty products. When he heard the prices, he stared in surprise. "What are you going to do with all of these?" I laughed. "I'll just take a little better care of myself." He jokingly said, "What if I don't recognize you afterward?" Smiling, I answered, "Maybe," but he had no idea. That very joke would soon become reality. I arrived at my parents' home. The joy of Eid was everywhere. The house was full of guests. Children's laughter echoed through the rooms. The delicious smell of food filled the kitchen, and my mother's gentle smile made everything feel warm and peaceful. Yet deep inside my mind, one sentence from my husband kept repeating itself. "What if I don't recognize you afterward?" Every time I remembered it, a smile spread across my lips. The next morning, I woke up early. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself for a long moment. Then quietly, I whispered to myself, "This time, I'll truly change a little." From that very day, I started seriously taking care of myself. Every morning, I washed my face carefully, used my creams, applied rose water, styled my hair, and even paid attention to my food and health. Days passed, and slowly, the changes began to appear. Sometimes my mother would look at me in surprise and say, "Daughter, you've changed so much." My sister would laugh and tease me. "If your husband sees you now, trust me, he'll be shocked." I would simply smile. But inside my heart, there was a quiet happiness. I wanted him to see a new glow in my eyes. I wanted him to realize that a woman is not only made for housework. A woman also longs to be admired. to be praised, to be looked at with love. About 2 weeks later, one night my husband called me. "I'm coming tomorrow to take you home." My heart suddenly began beating fast. That night, I stayed awake for hours getting ready. I prepared my clothes, styled my hair, and wore the perfume whose fragrance he loved the most. The next evening, someone knocked on the door. My heart trembled heavily inside my chest. From the kitchen, my mother called out, "Daughter, see who it is." Slowly, I walked toward the door. My hand gently reached for the handle, and I opened it. He was standing there, but the moment he saw me, his eyes widened slightly. For a second, he remained completely silent. Then he greeted me normally and asked, "Is everyone at home?" I struggled to hide my laughter. Quickly changing my voice a little, I replied, "Yes, they're inside." He kept staring at me, as if his mind had become confused. I walked back inside, but my heart was overflowing with laughter. Quietly, I told myself, "So, you truly didn't recognize me after all. Wait, is that really you?" I slowly walked toward the kitchen, but my heart was overflowing with laughter. In a low voice, my mother asked me, "Why are you smiling so much?" I softly replied, "Nothing." But the truth was, my husband's shocked expression was still playing again and again inside my mind. Quickly, I filled a glass with cold water and walked back to the guest room. He was still sitting exactly where I had left him. As I stepped closer, I felt his eyes turn toward me once again. I handed him the glass. He took it, but even while drinking the water, he kept secretly looking at me. I turned my face away so he wouldn't notice my smile. A few moments later, I prepared tea. The warm fragrance of tea slowly filled the room. I walked toward him quietly and sat in front of him. As I poured tea into his cup, I could feel his eyes moving over my hands, my face, even my hair. He was clearly confused. On purpose, I slowly lifted my eyes and looked at him with a soft smile. Immediately, he lowered his gaze. My heart nearly burst with laughter. Inside, I whispered to myself, "So this is the same man, the one who used to say natural beauty was enough." Then I stood up and slowly walked past him. As I moved close to him, the fragrance of my perfume spread softly through the room. Without realizing it, he took a deep breath. I noticed everything. Now he was truly nervous. Sometimes he looked at his phone, sometimes toward the door, and sometimes he secretly glanced back at me. At that very moment, my mother's voice came loudly from the kitchen. "Daughter, where's that red chicken? Your husband is here today too. You'll leave tomorrow, so slaughter that chicken tonight." The moment he heard the word husband, he suddenly sat upright. His eyes widened in shock. Then slowly, staring directly at me, he whispered, Wait a second. Is that you?" I could no longer hold back my laughter. I burst into laughter. My mother laughed too. My sister nearly bent over laughing. But he still sat there in complete shock, as if he still could not believe it. Suddenly, he stood up and walked toward me. Gently, he held my shoulders from behind. Half laughing, half amazed, he said, "I truly did not recognize you." Teasing him playfully, I replied, "So now you understand. Sometimes makeup feels beautiful too." He smiled, but this smile was not ordinary. It was the smile of a man who had fallen in love with his wife all over again. The room was still filled with laughter, but there was another feeling hidden inside my husband's eyes. He kept staring at me, as though he still couldn't believe that the same simple, ordinary woman he knew could transform so beautifully. Playfully, I asked him, "Why are you looking at me like that?" He smiled softly. "Because I'm still shocked. You really have changed so much." I smiled gently and replied, "Have I changed? Or have you only just started noticing me?" For a few seconds, he stayed silent. Then quietly, he answered, "Maybe both." I walked toward the window. The cool evening breeze gently moved the curtains. A moment later, he stood beside me. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then suddenly, he said, "I need to confess something." Surprised, I looked at him. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "I always believed natural beauty alone was enough. I used to think creams and makeup were unnecessary." Then he smiled faintly. "But today, I realized something." I softly asked, "What did you realize?" He looked directly into my eyes. "This is not only about beauty. It's about feelings. When a woman takes care of herself, when she dresses up, it's not just about looking pretty. She is making her heart happy. She is rebuilding her confidence. And she creates a new kind of love inside her husband's heart." My heart slowly softened at his words. Then he continued softly, "I think I never truly understood you before." Surprised, I asked, "What do you mean?" He smiled gently. "Sometimes you only wanted me to notice your changes, to praise you, to make you feel that you are still the queen of my heart." My eyes slowly filled with emotion. He gently held my hands in his. "Believe me, when you opened the door today, my heart stopped for a moment." I laughed softly. "Were you really that scared?" He laughed too, a little. Then in the softest voice, he whispered, "But let me tell you one thing. Whether you stay simple or wear makeup, to me, you will always be the most beautiful woman in the world." I lowered my head shyly, and that night became even more beautiful than Eid itself, because sometimes just a few sweet words can make years of love grow even deeper.